Hey, what's up, guys? Today I present to you Novox the deck, the Silenceforcer deck, or the Voiceless Voice. I don't know how it's going to get translated exactly. Um, so I was watching PAX tournament the other day. It was about 2 days ago from me recording this right now. And in this tournament, it's Post Photon Nightmare, and the deck that won the entire thing was Silenceforcer. It beat Fire Kings multiple times, and also I've played into it a little bit, and it just looks really fun and neat and interesting. Something that really interested me about this deck, other than the resource loop that it gets, is that we can play Saravius natively. Like, you're not forcing it into the deck, it's actually just part of the deck. And Saravius is just such a neat card because of how it interacts with Impermanence and Effect Veiler. Um, so that means that the real weakness of Novox, which is only Imperm or a Veiler, is completely dodgeable, and you also get to play Trias Hierarchica, which does pretty much the same thing but a little worse. But yeah, so this is just kind of an overall breakdown of it pure. In this side, I've got some cards you would consider playing. I've seen people play Pot of Prosperity, but I don't like losing to Droll and Lockbird much, and this pretty much does that if you don't see exactly the Saphira, and even if you see Saphira, it loses. So I'm not a big fan of Pot of Prosperity, but if that's what this deck needs inevitably, then it is what it is. But I think it should be consistent enough with these guys right here that it shouldn't matter. So yeah, this is just overall breakdown, and the cards that are mandatory 3-ofs, I think, are going to be obviously Novox, the Saphira, the Silent Forcing Barrier, and the Diviner for sure. And then we're also playing the Rituals at a high count because we are in fact playing a Ritual deck, so if you want to extend through hand traps, you need to see one of the rituals, even if you don't see the spell, because of how Saphira works, it works out. As for the non-engine, I kind of just put in generically good stuff. This obviously can fluctuate through format, and to be completely honest, these last 3 slots, I have no idea what I want to do with. I put together most of this list, and I just had 3 slots that I just put in a card. You could put in like Nibiru or whatever, but for now, I just have in talents because I wanted something good going first or second that also didn't make me lose to Droll. Otherwise, it'd be Prod of Prosperity. That's what it was. And then for the extra deck, it's actually completely optional. You don't need it outside of Dynamundo. Also Baron. We're playing Dynamundo and Baron as like the mandatory cards in the extra deck. The rest of this was here when I was testing around with the Dogmatika package, which is a nice package. My only problem with it is it makes you play into Nibiru for no reason. And I'm not a fan of that. And you kind of lose really hard if you go into Nibiru, but that's not the point. I'll just show you the combos real quick. Let's head into it. Alright, so to show you the first combo, we're actually just going to need the one card. So go ahead and put the rest of these to the top of the deck here. Yeah, because we just need the one, and I'm not going to go too nitty-gritty into the details here because I've tried too many times and I realized it makes it really unwatchable, but let's just get the combo going. So our combo starts by normal summoning Novox, and on summon, normal or special, Novox places a Silent Fork spell or trap from deck to grave, and, sorry, that's the wrong card. It will almost always be the continuous spell. If you already have the spell, then you can go ahead and activate the trap. The reason we do this is the spell lets us search for a Silent Fork monster or ritual, but we want the Silent Fork monster because we don't have any extenders in hand. So we'll just go ahead and grab the Saphira. If they draw here, you cry. When they don't, you can go ahead and send as cost the Saphira to grave, and this lets you send a ritual spell. And then if you do that, you can. I believe it's a you can. Because if it's a you can, this actually is a lot better. Ritual summon. No, sorry. Yeah, then you can add a light warrior or dragon. So since it's a can, if you already have this in hand, even if you get drolled, you can summon him out. It's not as nice, but it lets you still play. What we can do from here is go ahead and use the other effect of Saphira. She banishes herself as cost to more or less be a ritual spell. This lets us tribute off the Novox, which can be used as the entire tribute for a light warrior or dragon ritual monster. And we have a light warrior right here for Skull Guardian. And then on summon, we'll have 2 chains. We'll go Chainlink 1, Skull Guardian, Chainlink 2, Novox. So we're doing it this way because we want to chain block for the Skull Guardian, since most people are not playing Ghost Spell, but if you know your opponent's playing Ghost Spell or they've already burnt the Ash Blossom, then you can go ahead and make the Novox Chainlink 1. What happens here is Novox will summon itself since a light dragon warrior ritual was special summoned to your side of the field. Right here. Well, it was in the graveyard. And then Skull Guardian guy, he lets us add another card. And we're just going to add a Novox for follow-up. But if you've got more spells in graveyard, then you add this guy because he can special summon himself by shuffling 2 spells. But we don't have those spells, so we're just going to go ahead and add follow-up for next turn. And then we're going to go ahead and, on our 4th summon, make Dynamondo. And then we pass. This is what our end board looks like. I know it doesn't look very intimidating right now, but when our opponent enters their draw phase, let them draw their 1 pathetic card, and then immediately tribute off the Dynamondo to special summon back out the Skull Guardian, who will not trigger, but Novox will again. So you can special summon Novox back out, and this time Novox will trigger again, so that we can go ahead and activate the authority here. And that's what your normal combo looks like. We've got an Omni Negate that can't be targeted, and this one must be attacked. It's 4100 attack, so it's a pretty big beat stick. And it's a nice little loop because every turn we can always go Silent Forcing Barrier, add Saphira, Saphira send the ritual spell, ritual summon, and so on. And then also the Silent Forcing Authority during your opponent's turn can either be a special summon of a Silent Force monster, which also lets you shuffle the ritual spell back in deck, so you can always do the Saphira effect, or it can go ahead and pop cards your opponent controls up to the number of Light Warrior or Dragon Ritual monsters that you control. So currently it'd be a pop 1. The caveat is you do lose this card if you do it. So kind of whatever. But yeah, that is the bread and butter combo. If there's one thing you need to know to play this deck, that is it. Alright, so next I'd like to display what you can do if you have Diviner. This hand actually is very nice since we already have the barrier. So what we can do is go ahead and normal summon the Diviner, and we're forcing them to interact here because if they don't, we're threatening a Baron. And it might not be obvious, but if you know, you know. So on summon, we'll activate the Diviner's effect. If this is good to go through, since we already have the barrier, the Silent Forcing Barrier, we're going to go ahead and send a Trias Hierarchica to grave. The reason for that is we're actually going to go ahead and use the effect tributing the Diviner to special summon the Trias here. And it's honestly not even for the Trias body, though it is very nice. This is so that we can trigger Diviner, which lets us summon a level 2 or lower fairy from deck since it was tributed. So we can choose a few different things. If we didn't have access to the Silent Force engine, then we'd be pretty much boned and would have to go for the Novox. But since we do, we can actually special summon out the DD Sprite. This is a one of, I don't know if it's soft or hard Garnet. I have to read that. Hand or deck, so it is a soft Garnet. But the point is, Hierarchica here is a level 9, and this is a level 1. This is not a tuner, this is a tuner. So we can make Baron. Yeah, it just protects our play. And then from there, we're actually able to continue playing. So since we have the barrier, we'll go ahead and add that to go grab the Saphira. And if they have Droll, it doesn't matter because we have Baron and they can lick our balls. If they do, we Baron, right? From here, we'll go ahead and use the Saphira effect, sending it or discarding itself to send to grave to add to hand. And then from here, we can go ahead and banish her in order to ritual summon from hand. We'll ritual summon this guy and send her as the tribute. And from what I understand, like, because I showed it in the earlier combo, even if this is on field or in hand, since it was tributed, it will come back out. Since it's, I think it's like the sequencing of how ritual summoning happens or whatnot. Since it was used as the ritual summon, it's in the graveyard by the time this is summoned, so it's allowed to trigger and then summon and then activate. And this also gets to activate, so we'll go ahead and activate the trap since we already have the spell going. And then the ritual guy can add us the, wherever he went, Old Man. And then the Old Man can go ahead and summon himself by shuffling 2 spells, at least one of which being a ritual. So in a perfect world, we'd have an extra spell to use, like a pre-preparation of rites, or maybe, see, this is where like Nadir Servant or Prosperity could come into play. But I don't have either. Like, I want to play the Dogmatika line, I really do. It's just not good enough. I don't know, it feels bad. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Well, yeah, it feels bad because you're playing into Nibiru for no reason, and there's literally no recourse. Since the line you'll do is you'll turn the Skull Guardian and the Novox into the Dynamondo, and then you'll do your Dogmatika plays. But the Dynamondo line gets you to 4 summons anyways, so any more summons plays you into Nibiru. And if they Nibiru off the Dynamondo, what do you do? Since this is only during your opponent's turn to tribute and summon, You lose the dynamo, you lose everything, and now your opponent has full combo, full board. So that's why I like just playing it more pure. That way we don't lose to Nibiru. But yeah, so now we've got the Baron line and the Omni Negate and the Summon / Pop. We're ready. We are able to play next turn. We have Targeting Protection with this Saravius that we just happen to have. But if you see pre-prep, you can always get to him. And then, so the guy on board, as I mentioned earlier, what he can do is actually turn into the Saravius. So let's say it's our opponent's turn. We just have to wait for them to activate a card or effect. And once they do, we go ahead and bounce him back to hand and special this guy out. Normally from deck, but I just have him in hand. I'm lazy, right? Special, you can only... Here we go. Quick effect. You can return this card from hand, special summon a Light Warrior or Dragon Ritual from deck or hand. But shuffle it during the end of your next turn, which is whatever. We'll just use it as tribute fodder or whatever we need to do with it. And if this turns into the Odd Eyes Dragon, then it actually never mattered, right? Because the Odd Eyes Dragon will go ahead and summon him. Let's say we summoned him instead. He'll go ahead and move back to the Pendulum Zone anyways, and so he's not going to be destroyed or bounce or whatever. Or shuffle, since he's no longer the same monster, and we were always going to use his effect to grab the spell. You see how it goes, right? So, overall, I just really like this deck because it's got a nice, neat little loop. And I've never really been a fan of ritual decks because they have a tendency for being bricky, but this deck in particular doesn't seem very bricky and honestly looks very fun. It has some fun lines and it kind of looks pretty. So, anyways, this is the basic overview of the Silenceforce deck. If you guys would like, I could go over what the Dogmatika engine looks like, but it's not all that special. It's just an Nadir to Maximus, send the Shaddoll cards, add the Schism, discard the Schism, construct, add it back, and then on our opponent's turn, use it to make a Winda. But also, having Nadir would mean that we can play cards like Hand of the Arclight in the extra deck to send in order to get to extra ritual cards, so that could help us maybe play like Ben 10 for the Artifact Lancia because of... What's the deck that... Oh, like, Orchist is a deck that would like not like to be Lancia'd at all. They'd hate that. It's not the only deck, but that's the first one that comes to mind. So there is ways to tech this deck for whatever the format ends up looking like. But yeah, that's Silenceforce. If there's anything else I should really review this deck with, let me know. If you want a more like in-depth, after some more time, look into this deck, please let me know. I plan on playing this for my for the next format because I think it has some pretty good potential. Either way, boys, keep cooking. Yeah, so I just realized I'm kind of a doofus, a dummy dunderhead. We don't really have to play into Nibiru if we don't want to. So this is the Nadir line that, like, you don't play into Nibiru and you still get everything, assuming they let this resolve, of course, which they will. So we'll just start by go ahead and summoning the No Box, and we can go ahead and then activate the spell. The spell will grab us Saphira, which will then send a grave with one of the ritual spells in order to add this guy to hand, banish her from the graveyard, so that we can use this girl as tribute to special summon out the Skull Guardian. And then we'll have Chainlink 2 to summon back the Novox, Chainlink 1 Skull Guardian to go ahead and grab. So we'll go grab the old man. Wherever he went, there he went. And then because I'm an idiot, I was playing the Ecclesia when I was doing the line. I realized just like 2 seconds ago, you don't have to play the Ecclesia, so you don't have to summon an extra deck for the summon. We can just go ahead and activate the Nadir, sending whatever card you want to use to plus, though normally it's probably best to go, I believe App Clone is the one that does the adding, and then App Clone will let us go ahead and add, yeah, we don't need the extra bodies, so this lets us add Maximus, and then App Clone will then trigger, which allows us to go ahead and add, sorry, that's just the wrong card, but pretend it's Schism with me. We'll add the Schism, discard the Schism. So this is 3 summons, 4 summons here. Special summon him out, the Maximus, and then you can use the Maximus effect to send your 2 favorite cards, though it does need to be at least 1 Shaddoll card and 1 Dark. So we'll go ahead and send Construct and Garura, because let's get the plus, right? And then we'll trigger them in sequence, probably Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. So add back the Imagine It Schism to hand, and then draw a card. And so since we're at 4 summons here, we have a choice to make. If we haven't burnt the negate off of the Skull Guardian man, then we can go ahead and just summon out the Saravius here, the old man, shuffling these 2 back, since we have the negate for Baron. Otherwise, I wouldn't exactly suggest it, but we have the Schism play for next turn anyways. But yeah, so that's that. And then it's pretty much the same recourse as not recourse, the same kind of little line with the old man. We're not doing the Skull Guardian little play here because I don't think it's worth playing into Nibiru. Because from here we'd have to link these two off for the Dynamundo if we want to get the trap in rotation right now. And I don't think that's worth it. If you're able to get like a second one of him on the board or a second ritual monster on board, then you can go ahead and do the Dynamundo play to get the trap going since you'll still have the negate. You just have to keep Novox on board, and we don't need the Maximus anymore, so you could use him as the link. You'd have to do it earlier, of course, because I believe Maximus, as soon as you use the effect, it extract locks, right? So you don't want... you'll know before you go into Maximus if you're doing this or not. But what this does is... Right, let's pretend we're not stupid. This gives us the Omni Negate. We have Schism, which is Ascend of a Dark, which does come up. Not too often, but it does. And then we can also summon out Winda on our opponent's turn. We have an Omni, and this will probably turn into a... Back to hand. Probably turns into the Spell Negate Man, though it could always go for the bounce instead, but if we're being realistic, he's probably better. And so we've got a Spell Negate, we have a Omni Negate, and they get one summon, plus you have a whole hand of cards that could be good or bad, really depends on what you have. Plus, playing the Dogmatika engine is just really nice, because it gives us a bunch of access to extra deck stuff, like Natis, Garura, Bucephalus for Garura, Herald of the Arclight to search for ritual spells or monsters, which can help you keep going. So, you know, after rewatching and editing my video a little bit, the little editing I do, I realized you can do the combo properly. Just don't play Ecclesia. Don't fall for that trap. And you actually don't need to play more than one Maximus, or sorry, not Maximus, Dogmatika card, because Nadir says you can add back from deck or grave, which means you can also get hit by Bell. But that also means you only need to play the one. And then you can actually use your extra deck as almost exclusively Dogmatika targets, so that you either can empty your opponent's board or so that you can get advantage, because you don't need to touch your extra deck outside of Baron every now and then and Dynamundo on your normal combo. I thought I'd show that to you and realize that I'm kind of an idiot. I make mistakes too, guys. But yeah, that's the little Dogmatika line. That's not bad. I really should have been smarter when I was trying to test it. Either way, keep cooking.